Once in a while you find a garden that really surprises you, and nothing could be more true of this garden in Ripley, Tennessee. Off the beaten path over here in West Tennessee, where it's completely, maybe, unexpected. But once you start collecting something, a lot of times, as you all know, we can't really stop. This garden is spectacular and I can't wait for you to see it. There's an amazing variety of Japanese maples on this property, and they really form the bones and the structure of the garden. Upright varieties, weeping varieties, red leaf, green leaf, variegated forms. The collection is enormous, and it belongs to Judge Jody and Dana Walker here in Ripley, Tennessee. Thank you so much for having us here today.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. So tell us, how did this obsession, as one of our mutual friends has put it, start?
We have a local nursery in the county on Nankipu Road, Owen Farms, and he specialized in rare and unusual plants, including Japanese maples. And that's how we started. Began in 1996, didn't have any maples here before 96, and bought them small, knee-high, and raised them in pots for a while, and eventually started putting them in the yard.
It actually started with a bonsai. I was interested in the trees. They're so beautiful and graceful. And so we discussed that. My husband said, well, they're difficult. They're complicated. You need to learn about them. So went to the library, checked my book out. And the next day I was ready for my bonsai. And we went, and sure enough, about 2 months into the summer, it was difficult. And we just decided to go to trees in pot, which is also bonsai.
Right.
Trees in
Tree in pot.
Just eventually one place developed one area at a time and worked around the yard until we have come to this.
We started in this area. The first maples that we bought were planted in this, we call it the turnaround area, but this alcove. We're trying to get the view that we now have today.
Right. Well, and I could hardly pick a favorite in this collection, but the one behind us certainly is stunning.
It is.
And it's really beautiful. What is it?
Asahi zuru.
Asahi zuru.
Yes.
The variegated leaves are so unusual on this particular tree, and it's such a good size.
The branches are pink. When it comes out in the spring, there's more pink on the leaves also. You can see that it's tipped there with the green also, but it will have more pink, and then as it warms up, then it goes to the cream color. The maples are so gorgeous, and depending on the season or the week, sometimes the weather causes certain changes in them, and you do have different favorites during the season.
Right.
Each spring we have dozens of seedlings that come up, and we collect them, dig them up out of the yard, and put them in pots and grow them for 3 or 4 years in a pot, and then transplant them to the yard. This particular seedling came up with the rough bark, much like the pine bark maples, Nishikigawa, but with pink variegated leaves.
The pink leaves are holding, and they will hold until it gets very hot. But this has been one of the most unusual seedlings that we've had.
Named by our granddaughter, she calls it Pink.
Perfect name. Well, I know that the two of you have dug every hole and planted every tree, and have learned a lot probably in this process. And I see a reference book that you have. That might be something helpful for all of our folks to learn more about Japanese maples.
It's by Gelderen, Maples for Gardens, and we found it to be very accurate when it comes to the Japanese maples.
For the descriptions and the information.
And the size they grow to. And
well, let's talk about size for just a minute, because here in this spot we have, I think, 3 pretty good examples of different forms and habits. We've got this big upright sort of red leaf maple here in the back.
Beni kawa.
Beni kawa, a weeping form, and then this little guy.
Hanama Nishiki.
Okay.
And we did have a different reference guide. He was supposed to be 1 meter by 1 meter.
So roughly 3 feet by 3 feet.
Yes. I don't know if it's because of our wonderful soil that we have, or if it's the tree. He's just grown, and the leaf is so tiny and delicate.
Yeah, it is.
Just love it.
This tree is described in Van Gelderen as slow-growing, densely branched, up to about 6.5 feet high, and is wide. which is a much more accurate description.
Yes.
Yes.
It's called rare in cultivation.
So one thing that I really love about this space that you've created here is that you do have a tremendous collection of plants, but you also have some really beautiful garden ornament along the way, whether it's natural stone or these beautiful Japanese lanterns and things. Have you also, I mean, obviously you've put some effort into collecting some of these pieces.
Yes. This lantern has Christian inscription. I'm not sure exactly what the hidden inscription is on there, but I've read about it.
And what time period are we maybe looking at in something like this?
I'm thinking it was introduced around the late 1700s, early 1800s.
It's really beautiful. Well, in addition to creating a beautiful garden, you've also created some beautiful outdoor living spaces here, giving yourselves the ability to really enjoy the garden. Is this all stuff that you've created since you moved here?
Yes, since '96.
Since 1996, you've created all these different little outdoor living areas. And the thing that I love is that we're kind of elevated up here. So back here, we're almost in the canopy of the trees. And then as you come here and then down these steps, we get more into the understory of it all. And I see even over here, we have some little seedlings coming up in the rocks. Do you find that they really thrive in those areas kind of in between the rocks and the cracks of things?
They do, because they don't get mowed down.
Well, there you go.
And then we'll eventually dig those up and put them in pots and raise them a couple of years. And
I noticed that they're so tough and so hardy that there's even a couple of little seedlings coming up literally out of the crack of a big rock over
yes,
here.
They are, yeah. They grow anywhere, and they do really well, the seedlings we have. I can show you on another part of the yard some that we did transplant out of buckets after digging them up like this and raising them a little while. And they're really beautiful trees.
Well, before we leave this beautiful place, I want just a little bit of nuts and bolts gardening information from the experts. Digging holes and planting Japanese maples, and how you've been so successful here. What's the key?
Well, we try to dig that hole twice as wide as the root ball.
Right.
I dig the hole.
You dig the hole.
I dig the hole.
And she says when it's big enough.
That's right.
And which direction that it goes, because most of them do have a front or their face,
Sure.
their prominent side, depending on where it's going to be viewed from.
And that's very important, because if you don't turn it the proper way, you have to dig it back up.
Right.
So
you want to plant it the right direction the first time.
So she does that.
And do you add any soil amendments or anything to like the backfill soil that you're putting back into the hole? How does that happen?
Yes, we have a soil conditioner that we get, and we just mix that in with the regular soil, because our soil is still very good here in this area.
Right. And then what about fertilizing and that kind of thing? Do you ever have to fertilize them, or
When we first plant them.
when you first plant them?
We put Osmocote. Maples don't like a lot of fertilizer.
Right. And you don't want to force a lot of soft growth on them because you want these beautiful shapes. And speaking of beautiful shapes, a lot of that comes from good pruning techniques. So I understand you prune.
I do.
And tell me about that process.
Well, basically I just start with I get the dead out of the tree first, and try to make sure that it's healthy.
Right.
And then take any cross branches off. And then if it's going to be in the way of a pathway or something, may take those branches off. But
and raise the canopy up just a little bit.
Yes.
And we've got, behind us here this beautiful upright form and then also a weeping form. Are there differences in the way that you prune those two?
I try to let them do what they do naturally.
Right.
And just make sure that they're healthy, and I may take a little more off so that you can see how large the trunk is and the shape.
See the structure of it just a little bit more, open that up.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of your day and sharing your beautiful garden with us.
Thank you so much for being here.